All right, so let's do a few introductions. I'm Nicole. I'm a customer program manager at Social Bakers. What I do is I keep an eye on all of our top customers, what their marketing strategies are and what their main focuses are for the year and quarterly, and figure out how we can better implement those strategies using the Social Bakers platform. And I am joined by my colleague today, my co-host in this webinar, Pauline.
Hello, everyone. Nice to meet you. I'm Pauline, Solutions Consultant at Social Bakers. My role at Social Bakers is to understand our prospect and client needs and business goals and help them to achieve them. I'm super excited to host this webinar today with Nicole.
Great. So another key housekeeping thing, I'm glad you all can hear. I'm glad we're all in the mindset to think about how we can start fresh in the new year, but let's keep the dialogue going. If you have any questions as we're going through these tips, please put them in the Q&A and we'll get to them at the end. So I've noticed that we have a number of already users of Social Bakers. So hi to the people who are already familiar with the platform. But if you've never heard of Social Bakers before, welcome to our community where we help marketers level up. Social Bakers is a social media SaaS platform. It's something that you can bring in-house. And the goal is to help you be more efficient and effective with your social media marketing. So we sit at the cross-section of data plus marketing. And in this way, you can make more intelligent and more advanced decisions because they're data-backed decisions. So Pauline and I are two people in this giant company of 500 plus. We've been around for 12 plus years in the business. And what that means is that our database is even, it's just so fortified. So we track lots of profiles in order to enable you to create industry benchmarks, track your competitors a little bit better. We have lots of tools to facilitate efficiency, whether that means collaborating with teams across the world, across countries, or efficiencies in a sense of publishing at the right time, publishing with the right content so that you can govern the type of content that you're producing. Really, it's an amazing place where we're constantly thinking of how we can improve the life of marketers. If you have any questions on Social Bakers, drop that in the chat too, because we would be happy to speak more. So let's see how we can flip things around in 2021. So this month we'll be saying goodbye. So everyone do it with me, a big inhale and a big exhale to say goodbye to a very tough year. So here's an overview. Before we jump in, what are the 5 resolutions that we have? The first is we want to focus on AI marketing because the truth is it's a must-have. It's not a nice-to-have. And of course, we're going to touch on content. We all know that content is key in our social media marketing. And what's most important in the new year is being authentic. We'll touch upon using a digital platform and what that means for better collaboration. Influencers is a huge buzzword, so we'll talk about not just influencers, but how can you find a good match in the new year. We also want to help you leverage the other half of the conversation. So in this list, you might see some classics. They are tried and true, and then we also have a few shiny and new resolutions for you. So Pauline, I'll let you get started.
Of course. Thank you, Nicole. So let's talk about the first resolution. Today, AI is a must-have. You really need to use it in 2021 on your social media strategy. So everybody's actually talking about AI, but what is it exactly? Here, it's important to define it. Artificial intelligence is not automation. AI is a simulation of human intelligence programmed to think like humans and mimic their action. Also, AI is constantly learning from experience, adjusting new inputs, and performing human-like tasks all the time. Now, let me show you a few examples of what AI can do for you. So you are sometimes relying on gut feelings to make posting decisions, such as publishing at a standard time on specific days of the week, or testing different publishing times to compare results. This can cost time and money, and aren't always 100% reliable. Replace the guesswork with accurate AI-powered publishing recommendations that get smarter every time you use them, because when you publish matters. Thanks to social bakers, for example, you can optimize your publishing times and increase your engagement and the visibility of your posts. The time of publishing is important, but the quality of the content too. So, do you know today where to put your money on, or which content you should promote? When we look at the last quarter, European brands were spending their budget on the D content, meaning the worst content. Thanks to a platform like Social Bakers, for example, you can understand which content is the best content to promote, and in that way, having better results on your content, but also spending your budget that bring the best results. Then, when we talk about AI, we think also more efficiency. Let's see. The majority of customers complaining on social media expect a response within 1 hour. But when we look at this response time by industry closer, we can say that many brands struggle to respond within 1 day, while consumers expecting an answer within 1 hour. Think about this average time of response. Look at this. 71% of enterprise organizations using bots actually saw an increase in customer satisfaction, but it is also a question of cost savings and reduction in call volume by 88%. So thanks to AI and especially chatbots, you can save money, save time, and save customers. So now let's talk about the second resolution. So taking about all this customer care and AI match, let's check content creation. How you need to connect with the audience in 2021. So sharing your content on social media means you are reaching people who already confirm they are interested in hearing from you. These platforms allow you not only to communicate with your most relevant audience, they also provide you a space where your content can be shared by others and reach new relevant people. So yes, social media is still king. So now that we know the coronavirus pandemic shook the entire world, while world governments help their citizens, brands are on the front line too, and helping out people in these difficult times. We are going to see more empathy and community services from brands in 2021 that will dominate the way they produce content. There will be more empathy, more generosity, and more acceptance highlighted in content marketing in 2021. Also, customers are expecting from the brands to make sustainable, ethical choices. So let's go a bit deeper. First of all, this is not a news. Real life is real. We see more and more influencers showing them in the real life and telling to their audience that Instagram is actually not real life. For example, the famous model and influencer Gabrielle Conesil shows her beautiful in front of her Christmas tree, but at the same time, she's shooting herself like a woman actually suffering from endometriosis. Then we see also more and more homemade pictures on the brand's feeds. For example, the Gucci's last collection shots could be from a personal album photo. It could be me or you who has taken this picture. Zara is actually the same, shooting the model in front of their houses, babies in their arms. We see real life with babies, dog, towels, masks. So yes, it's so authentic. Then we see also that if you support a cause, you have to tell it. As I said, customers are waiting for the brands to make ethical choices. That's why, for example, L'Oréal Paris is supporting women's rights, or Jaguar is actually supporting animal defense. Then we can also see that here H&M is launching actually its last collection made from waste and tell it. Prada with the Sea Beyond Prada, also a project with explore the importance of the oceans, the problem of marine pollution, and particularly with regards to plastic and the fashion sector commitment to sustainable production. And Zalando talking about the different actions they're taking in terms of diversity and inclusions to make fashion more diverse. Talking about authenticity, consumers trust more user-generated content than traditional advertising. So even if user-generated content is not a new trend, it's here to stay. The advantages of using content created by customers are numerous. It not only gives businesses a break from producing their own content, it also allows to show products and services in a more authentic way and reward brand fans through featuring them on the company's channel. So for example, here you can see different examples for McDonald's or Sephora or even Jeep. Next thing, you can see also that sometimes it can be a state of mind for a brand. For example, here, Burger King France, who made the choice that their Instagram accounts belongs to their fan, and it is just about content from their consumers. So now let's talk about another type of content, which is actually super authentic. 1 minute video can say a lot. 1 minute video equals more than 1 million words. That's why it is always a must on your content strategy. And talking about authenticity, we can talk about live videos, because when we're talking about videos, we think live videos are viewed by audiences, are more authentic, add a human touch to your brand, and provide an opportunity for real-time interaction with consumers. This type of media can be great for real-time interaction and relationship building with customers. Here you can see different examples. For example, live videos, live shows, for example, for Dolce & Gabbana, or even live trainings, because we love when brands take care of us. And then the last but not least, again, authentic videos. Like, for example, you can see a lot of videos with muses. Dior, for example, share a video with us with a muse that actually sharing her Thanksgiving recipe. Then you can see also behind the scenes with Chanel, or videos that are actually supporting your brand statement, for example, for Patagonia. And I will conclude this part about authentic content with this video, which I really like. It is actually a good package with all the things that I've presented to you before. It is a video, it is authentic, and it is sharing a positive message about body positivity. Let's check it out. I invite you to check the video. It's actually from Pretty Little Thing. You can check it on YouTube. With the sound, it will be better. Sorry for that. I will conclude this part. So I have concluded this part. Now I'm going to talk about the resolution number 3, which is actually get a digital platform. Because did you know that actually teams need 12 days to bring a piece of content to the market? It is a lot of work and it takes a lot of time. So my solution for you is use a digital platform. Why? Because it will make your life much easier, but you will win time, money, and efficiency. Thanks to a platform like Social Bakers, you can actually get inspired and create the best content mood boards. You can create your content planning, discuss it with all your teams, validate your content, and then publish your content. But also, as I have talked about AI before, you will also be supported by AI to take the best decisions. So what are you waiting for? Now, I will let Nicole present you the 2 last resolutions for 2021, the 2 last but not least.
Thanks, Pauline. So our fourth resolution, take out your pens, is quite in line with what Pauline was explaining before. And I saw in the chat that user-generated content works very well for brands. And that's because word of mouth is powerful. So let's align that with an extension of your brand by leveraging influencers in 2021. But not only leveraging them, but find an authentic fit. Because think about it. Why do people follow influencers in the first place? They're relatable. They form a mini community with common interests, and it's kind of like a trusted gal pal or a confidant. So there are a lot of influencers out there, and it might be tough to find the right pick. There could be anything from Airbnb, maybe using the influencer on the left, or maybe hearing aids are really what's powering the party on the right. No matter what, there's an influencer out there that's going to work well for your brand. But the question mark is, how do I find the right one? So you may also be asking social bakers, with all the data that you have, can you please tell us, will influencers still be a thing in 2021? And so we do know that this past year, there was a drop in brands cooperating with influencers. But as we can see, we have data so far through the end of October, we're starting to see an increase. And interestingly, if you have your phone nearby, I hope it's still live on the Social Bakers story. We are posing a question out to our audience on Instagram right now. What type of influencer would you use? And so when I answered this question last night, when the post went live, it was almost 50-50, but head over to our Instagram and take your vote. Would you lean more towards using a micro influencer or a macro? But back to the presentation, looking at the data, what we see globally, and I don't mean to spoil the fun in the Instagram story right here, but globally we do see that micro influencers are the type of influencer that brands are leveraging the most. So these are influencers with generally less than 50,000 followers. On average, we're seeing that 93% of the brand partnerships are with micro influencers. And specifically in Europe, you can see we're just slightly above the average. But we actually recommend considering various types and sizes of influencers. And I would be curious if we want to generate a little bit of conversation in the chat. If you're currently using an influencer, I'd love to hear if you're using strictly micro, a mix of micro and macro, or even what are some of the things that you look for when you're looking for an influencer. It might be interesting for others to hear some best practices. So what does our audience say? So another way to look at it, so we saw that in general, micro influencers are the way to go in a sense that they produce the most engagement. Influencers help to build clout. But most importantly is that they are really giving you that engagement boost. But as I mentioned, you don't have to only go for a specific type of influencer. Here in this matrix, we give you an overview of playing in the safe zone. So we can see from left to right the size of the brand. As it increases, it makes sense for those larger brands to indeed work with those larger influencers. But for some small or medium-sized brands, you do have a lot of area to play with where an influencer will bring you that extra boost. It will multiply the engagement. According to Social Bakers data, what we see here is that extra small brands, brands with fewer than 10,000 followers, when they're partnering with an influencer, they're really seeing a great achievement in efficiency from that relationship. So in the next perspective, we kind of break it down one more time by industry, something else that you might want to consider, especially in the new year. If you have to be a little bit smarter about your marketing dollars, you do want to think about, is working with an influencer going to give me that exponential boost? So from an industry perspective, what we've seen is that in specific industries, they're already producing really, really great content. In this graph here, that red line at number 1, basically it means that content that an influencer may post is going to generate around the same amount of engagement as content that the brand would post on their own anyway. So for healthcare and finance, I know myself, my friends, and I'm guessing some of my colleagues, we're not really very often liking, sharing, or commenting on our bank's Instagram post. So they may indeed benefit from that extension of their brand by working with an influencer. Whereas the travel industry, the auto industry, they're already producing some pretty great content where that exponential boost may not be quite as high. So we wanted to give you that additional perspective. And also some helpful tip when we're thinking about influencers. Once you have an idea of the size of the influencer that you want to work with, there are a number of topics that you should consider. And like I asked before, are there specific things that you yourself in the audience, if you're using influencers, what are some of the things that are non-negotiable for you? So here, Social Bakers, we've put together a checklist for you. These are all things that we're able to help with directly within the platform, ensuring that your potential influencer that you may work with is not also working with competitive brands, finding common interests, making sure that they have a close-knit community, that all their followers are not made up of bots, but are made up of people who really do truly engage with each other, making sure that your influencer is aligned with your brand ethos. For the customers of Social Bakers that are already on the line, you are probably already familiar with task automation and how that really simplifies analyzing your content. So here's another way that you can leverage task automation is to actually check to make sure that your influencers aren't approaching any of those sensitive subjects. Making sure your influencer, for example, isn't plotting to rob a bank or other sensitive keywords. You can kind of keep track. And most importantly, it always comes down to ROI. It's working with an influencer, really moving the needle for me. And a lot of times the best way to measure that is with the private data that influencers keep close. But through Social Bakers, with a click of one button, you're able to agree on the metrics that you'll share together. And that way, you know for sure with that transparency that this is a very good and strong partnership. Now, last thing on influencers, and this one is key. So listen closely here. Most importantly is there is no secret recipe for finding an influencer. I hope some of the data that I shared earlier is kind of helpful to orient you. But at the end of the day, every industry and every brand is very, very unique. So the one thing that you absolutely must do in 2021, in addition to drinking more water, is to track the influencers that you are working with. But a suggestion might be track influencers that you could potentially work with. By tracking an influencer in advance, you can already start to benchmark expectations and understand the type of content they're posting and engagement that they're getting. And that way you can kind of set expectations before the partnership even starts. Okay. And our last resolution is be a good listener in the new year. So I chuckle at this gift because I'm a big Friends fan, and I can hear Joey Tribbiani saying to me, "You have got to listen." And he's right, but I get it. You probably don't want to take advice from Joey Tribbiani. That's okay, because there's someone else who has the same suggestion. Richard Branson, of course, is a serial entrepreneur, a successful author and philanthropist. He's really gotten far in life, and he has good advice for 2021 as well. Because the truth is, nobody learned anything by hearing themselves speak. And I think this is extraordinarily relevant in the marketing world. So what are these guys onto? Why is social media listening an important part of your marketing strategy? So let's take a step back. We all remember when Facebook first started, and even this screenshot is just from a few days ago. Social media has always asked us to open up and share what we're thinking. Here they ask, Nicole, what's on your mind? When we are sitting behind a screen and we are prompted to speak, oh, you betcha people will have a lot to say. So Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, these become great resources and an additional data source for your marketing strategy. So this is why it's important to listen to the second half of the conversation. I know that you spend a lot of time working on the best content, and Pauline has shown us some great ways to be more authentic in the new year. So now is the suggestion to listen to how that's resonating with your consumers and what are they saying. This is helpful for 3 reasons. The first is tracking trends. Things happen fast, very fast. At first, you thought the gift from last year, this fancy pour-over coffee machine, was going to be the coolest thing ever, but then it turned out that all anybody was posting on Instagram were all their beautiful recipes that they made in their Power Air Fryer. Well, with social listening, you will be on top of that trend. You can't wait to put together a customer survey or a focus group. Instead, you have a real-time, always-on, giant focus group. Now, how can that help? Here's a few examples. So trends is one, but what about product development? Here we can see directly a tweet from a consumer who is speaking about his pair of New Balances and really liking a specific colorway. On the bottom, we see a consumer who really appreciates New Balance's push for female empowerment and the way they support their athletes leading up to the Olympics. And it's also a great opportunity if you are distributed through retailers. You can keep track on how your retailers and your partners are also promoting your product. And this is all done in real time. And number 3 is competitive research. Social listening allows you to kind of be a little bit of a spy. What better way to get ahead in your industry than having a good understanding of the perceptions and the issues that customers are having with your competition? Like I said, behind the screen, everything is fair game. Everyone has lots to say. And the truth is that consumer conversations are consumer expectations. So you can start to rebuild and think about how you can improve based on these conversations. You can learn from your competitors' mistakes and you can benchmark. Are these same types of conversations or topics being said about your brand as well as your competitor? So here's a quick example. With one tweet, there are 3 things that Domino's or Papa John's or whomever can do better at their pizza shop. But if you own a pizza shop, I have a feeling that you will teach your delivery men or women to pick up the phone and call, to be faster in their deliveries, and maybe invest in some insular or something so that your pizza's not cold. And then finally, wrapping back up to the conversations that we had earlier. The first is talking about authenticity and finding the right influencer. Well, what better way to do that than leveraging social media listening to find a customer of yours that's already in love with your product and already sharing that across their socials? What a better way to find a truly organic relationship. And I want to leave you with one last note is take advantage of this, because in some of our research, what we learned is social media listening currently is very underutilized. So during the COVID crisis, Gartner did a study and learned that only 51% of marketers turned to listening as a tool to help understand what the sentiment was during that time period and how consumer behaviors were changing. That's crazy because this is real-time data that we have. And another thing is, of the marketers that are leveraging social listening, only 8% are utilizing it for that competitive research and analysis. So let me tell you, I really think that this is a way that you can get ahead in 2021. All right, we're going to wrap up. All in all, we learned a lot today. We had 5 resolutions for you, but I think that there are 3 main takeaways, 3 threads throughout all of them. I think maybe some of the resolutions you have said to yourself, yes, I can do that right away. And some may take some time to adapt for your team. But all in all, 3 key threads we want you to try to think about next year is focus on the consumer's agenda, not your brand. Listen to what they have to say. You can learn a lot from them. Authenticity builds loyalty. So just be yourself. It's a mom's best advice, and it applies here in the working world as well. Just be your brand's authentic self. They don't want all your marketing speak. They want honesty, and they will appreciate sharing user-generated content and working with a good fit of an influencer. And lastly, marketers are only humans. You can only do the best that you can do, but with technology by your side, that best gets even better. So consider different ways that you can incorporate AI into your daily life, or adopt an entire digital platform to really streamline and simplify things. So before we go into Q&A, we wanted to leave you with a few resolutions to inspire you as you get into the new year. Happy and healthy new year to you all in the world behind your laptop and away from your laptop. So with about a few minutes left, let's take a look and see if we have any questions for Pauline and I.
There is a first question, Nicole, for you, I think. How can we know if an influencer is fake or not?
Okay, that's a good question. Thanks for asking. It's hard to do. I can admit, it's hard to do on your own. A lot of times, fake influencers, they'll use bots to increase their followers. At Social Bakers, this is the power of technology, where at Social Bakers, we can crawl and find these imposters, and we eliminate them completely from our influencer search. So you won't have to worry about working with an influencer that won't be providing you with that type of relationship that you're looking for.
Great. We have another question about influencers. What is the influencer score from a few slides ago? You were talking about influencer scores.
Yes. So the influencer score, so this is another key aspect of the Social Bakers search, and it's another way, again, to leverage technology to, I should say, leverage all the data points that make up an influencer. So with the influencer score, what we're doing is we're taking into account key engagement metrics, the sum of interactions, the number of their followers and their followers' activities, how much they're commenting and posting. So we're kind of taking this entire equation together to present a score for each of the influencers. And that's another easy way. Once you have the idea of the type of influencer that you want to work with, you can search by interest and location, size. We talked a lot about size today. And then we also have this factor where it's the influencer score, and that will help you to prioritize good potential influencers. Then you can grab their social profiles, add that URL, add that profile to your Social Bakers account, and that's when you can start to track to actually see if their engagement is in line with what you're looking for. Cool.
Maybe we take a last one about listening. Social Bakers listening take into the account sentiments of someone's comments and different languages.
So Social Bakers listening, yes. Social Bakers listening, we are able to ingest or listen for over 100 languages. So our sentiment does take into account all these different languages. And I will admit that sarcasm is hard to catch. And yes, in some respects, sometimes a human is better than a robot. That's why everywhere in Social Bakers, you can actually change a sentiment if you notice that it's incorrect. But what I will also note with our listening is that more and more people are using emojis. And so emojis are really hard to misinterpret. So that's a good way to also judge the sentiment. Okay. Well, I'm a little disappointed that I didn't see more resolutions in the chat. But I'm happy that you all joined. I do hope that of these resolutions, some of them resonate well with you. There might be one or two that you know that you can take away directly with your team. If there's anything that caused you to scratch your head or made you think that is interesting and want to explore this further, Pauline and I are always happy to connect. You can find us on LinkedIn, but for the folks that are already Social Bakers customers, feel free to reach out to your account manager. I'm sure they'd be happy to hear from you and wish you well for the new year. But you'll have this presentation's recording delivered to you, so you can always go back and revisit some of the slides as well. But please do, if you have questions, feel free to ask us. Pauline, anything else to add on your end before we wrap up?
No, I think we're good. Thanks for attending the webinar, and maybe we can talk later on another one.
Perfect. Yes, sounds good. Thank you all for joining. Thank you for participating in the chat. And if you need anything, we're always here for you.